The Acolyte isn't just bombing on Disney Plus and with the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. No, it is also bombing on torrent sites out there on the high seas. That's right, The Acolyte is not even worth stealing, and for Disney and Hollywood at large with them, that may be the worst news yet. Let's see why. This video is sponsored by Black Forest Supplements. As we've seen already, The Acolyte is a big hit with the critics in the entertainment media complex. Except for Forbes, of course, who calls all those other critics crazy, as they agree with the audience that The Acolyte is pretty darn mediocre, all while pointing out that when something wears its social messaging on its sleeve to the extent that The Acolyte does, then pretty much all it can be is a short-lived battlefront in a larger cultured war. And before we move on to how not even pirates want The Acolyte and the larger repercussions here, let's take a brief moment to look at that. The Acolyte is the perfect distillation of everything the Hollywood establishment has forced upon the audience for several years now, without the audience ever asking for it, and even with them actively having voted against it with their wallets. Ever since Mad Max Fury Road, a movie where declared feminist and vagina monologues author Eve Ensler served as a consultant to ensure they got the messaging just right, the male lead has been sidelined, replaced, and then increasingly ridiculed, humiliated, emasculated, and effectively struggle-sessioned, until all that remains are what I suppose is Hollywood's idea of what men should be. Safe, non-threatening, subjugated, diverse beta males, and anyone objecting to this are smeared as ists and phobes for doing so. Yet, for the generation of kids growing up today, these are the only men the media presents as any kind of role models, and those pointing out the problem with that, like Dr. Jordan Peterson, are positively demonized for it. And it's not just that weak and subjugated men are being pushed by the media. We're bombarded with estrogenic chemicals from plastics, junk food, and sedentary lifestyles. As a result, testosterone levels have been declining for decades, with a 17% drop among 60-year-olds in 2004 compared to 1987. So just imagine what it is today or what it's going to be in the future if things continue like this. Moreover, sperm count and strength in men are also decreasing exponentially, with a striking reduction in grip strength among young men compared to 30 years ago. Luckily, there is hope. Black Forest Turkesterone with Tomcat Ali limited edition supplement has been dubbed the feminization killer, since it combines two of the most potent natural testosterone boosters in the market. The first, Turkesterone, is a natural anabolic compound that supports muscle growth, improves endurance, and boosts testosterone levels. The other, Tomcat Ali, is an ancient potent natural herb that has been used for thousands of years to increase testosterone levels, improve libido, and reduce stress levels. Having used it myself for a couple of weeks now, I already noticed that I sleep better and recover faster after an intense session in the gym. In short, this supplement is just what is needed in a culture that is seemingly trying to feminize and weaken you. You need to get it soon though, as it is limited, and once it's gone, it's gone. But since Black Forest sponsors this video, we naturally have a deal for you. If you go down to the link in the description, you can buy 2 and get 1 for free. The offer is only valid for 48 hours though, so get yours now. And with that, let's move on to the popularity of the Acolyte, or rather the anti-popularity, as not even the pirates want it. This was actually first brought to my attention by one of our viewers, as Joe Salyers left a comment on our previous video saying, "The high seas of torrents tell an even worse story. I just looked as I was watching your video. The Acolyte has less than 2,500 people sharing it at 11 PM on Saturday night. Compare that to Ahsoka, that were 30,000 for each of the 2 episodes the first day and over 100,000 by the end of the week. This show is an utter flop, so bad that people don't even want to steal it. LMAO poop sticker." After switching on my Surfshark VPN, I headed out to the high seas myself, just to see if these numbers could be validated. And to be clear, I can't retroactively validate how many shared as of 11 PM Saturday night, let alone how many shared Ahsoka at the time when it was released. Though I am willing to trust Joe's recollection on that, because when I checked the numbers Sunday morning, the most popular torrent of the first episode has about 3,100 seeds, while episode 2 had about 2,000 less than that, 2,100 seeds, which is in line with what he was reporting. Then on top of that, you have replica torrents and alternate torrents of different resolutions driving up the total number of shares. But the gist of it is that the Piracy numbers kind of have to be spun the same way as Disney and their friends in the trades did the Disney Plus viewership. Meaning, sure, the Acolyte may be the most torrented series right now in this moment, and it may even be the most torrented series hailing from Disney Plus that was released this year. But beyond that, these are bad numbers for an in-release high-end genre series. You would normally expect 10 to 15 times as many seeds for something this high profile. In other words, relative to its profile, the Acolyte is bombing even out there on the high seas. But then you might wonder, how is that a bad thing? Fewer people watching it illegally must mean less money lost to Piracy, right? Well, not quite. That's not how the Force works. First, consider Piracy as a given, and something that Hollywood, however inadvertently it may have been, have greatly championed with their streaming war nonsense. Piracy was actually going down back when everything was on Netflix. Now it's up again. Second, recognize Piracy for the double-edged sword that it is. Yes, some productions, especially lower-budgeted movies, may lose their entire profit margin to Piracy, which is most regrettable, and I wish it wasn't so. On the flip side though, some of the biggest pirates are also the biggest movie aficionados. If they like something they pirate, they'll support it with money shortly thereafter and recommend all their friends do the same. A countryman of mine, Tommy Virkula, the director of, most recently, Violent Night, kickstarted his whole career by releasing his first feature film, a gender-bent and most un-PC Norwegian remake of Kill Bill, for free online and on Piracy sites. The hype from that led to his next feature, Dead Snow, getting the green light. The international press for Dead Snow, plus a boatload of hype driven in no small part by illegal downloads, contributed to him shifting his base of operations from the Norwegian tundra to Hollywood. Piracy alone didn't do that, of course, but it certainly helped. But beyond that, for Hollywood, Piracy can be used as an indicator of a brand's health. Case in point, in our epic interview with Fredrik Malmberg, brand manager of all things Robert E. Howard and keeper of the Conan legend, he relayed that following the financial flop of the 2011 Conan remake, they, somewhat ironically, were motivated by the exceedingly high number of illegal downloads for that movie. While that didn't earn them any much needed money, of course, the sheer number of illegal downloads told them that while they clearly had made the wrong movie, and they were paying the price for that, there was still strong interest in the Conan brand. The fanbase was and is there, you just have to give them a project that they want to support. And that, my friends, brings us to what is so bad about the number of illegal downloads for the Acolyte being as low as they are, comparatively speaking. Add in the disappointing numbers on Disney Plus, and the conclusion is that the fanbase isn't there anymore, because they weren't interested enough in seeing this to even pirate it. How can this be? According to Kathleen Kennedy, this should have been the biggest Star Wars series ever, since it was the most inclusive and representative Star Wars ever. As we already saw in our breakdown of the New York Times spin piece promoting the Acolyte, the highlights of which were summed up by Deadline Hollywood, Kathleen Kennedy dismissed any accusations that Star Wars had gone woke under her watch, saying, "Operating within these giant franchises now, with social media and the level of expectation, it's terrifying. I think Leslye Headland has struggled a little bit with it. I think a lot of the women who step into Star Wars struggle with this a bit more. Because of the fanbase being so male-dominated, they sometimes get attacked in ways that can be quite personal. My belief is that storytelling needs to be representative of all people. That's an easy decision for me.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
So, her belief, her ideology, is that everyone needs to be represented in the storytelling in this property that has always had a male-dominated fanbase. And this ideology goes way beyond Kathleen Kennedy. The gist of this ideology, where Hollywood is concerned, is that if you include everyone, then everyone will see themselves on screen and everyone will come. The big flaw with this ideology, among many others, is that it conveniently ignores the fact that inclusion is exclusion, and the more you include, the more you exclude. The result of which is that for several years now, the built-in and main movie-going audience has been excluded from the biggest and most high-profile blockbusters, especially the ones from Disney, and by now, I believe that has led to the audience losing faith in Hollywood's ability to provide entertainment, which I think is one of the chief reasons why so many aren't going to the movies anymore. And they really aren't. The box office is a wasteland worse than the one in Mad Max. There are more reasons, of course. Hollywood's insane and ill-advised obsession with streaming is one. The increasingly high ticket prices in an economy which is arguably the worst since the Great Depression is another. But Hollywood's obsession with DEI, which is so perfectly exemplified in The Acolyte, is a big one. And this has some very real repercussions. On May 28th, the LA Times ran the piece "Hollywood Crews in Crisis. Everyone's just in panic mode as jobs decline." In it, they shared the stories of a number of crew members who used to make a good living going from one production to the next. But now they're struggling, because even if these strikes are over, for now, productions have not ramped up again in nowhere near the volume as pre-strikes. Now, you may be thinking, it really sucks that the poor crews have to suffer, because those are the regular people living from paycheck to paycheck. But I bet that the fat cats and suits are okay. And some of them are, but in fact most aren't. 2 months earlier, Deadline Hollywood ran a similar story. Hollywood contraction hits entertainment executive jobs. This is a full-scale depression, where they broke down how the fat cats and the suits were losing their jobs too and not finding new ones, because there are much fewer entertainment jobs to go around, even for executives. Again, there are several reasons for this, some of which would have happened anyway, like the strikes. But the really big one is that the audience just aren't shelling out their hard-earned cash like they used to before. It's funny how that happened in the aftermath of Hollywood starting to take active measures to include everyone, and that's when audiences all over the world started checking out. That is the final takeaway here. The Acolyte is a disaster to the Disney and Star Wars brands, but even beyond that, the mentality and ideology that led to The Acolyte being made in the first place has greatly contributed to all of Hollywood being damaged, because they went all in on programming that nobody wanted anywhere. Can they repair the damage now, or is it too late? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and before you go, then gentlemen, remember to increase your own testosterone levels with the feminization killer Black Forest Turkesterone with Tongkat Ali Limited Edition. Use the link in the description, so you can buy 2 and get 1 for free. That offer is only valid for 48 hours though, so get yours now.